In this video, I'm going to replace the mechanical brakes on my Ouxi V8 e-bike with these hydraulic brakes I sourced online. A link to this product is listed in the description below this video. The nice thing about these brakes is they're hydraulic, they're ready to go to set up, just bolt on, and it comes with the motor cutoff switch that plugs and plays with the factory controller. So everything is simple to install. You do have to remove the seat. You're going to have to take off the cabling ties that keeps the cabling together. That's what's probably going to take the longest, and then put the new brake levers on the handlebars. Before we get started, I'm going to do a brake test to see how long it takes to stop with the mechanical brakes, and then I'll do the same with the hydraulic brakes when I'm done. 20 miles an hour, brake. With the hydraulics, this is where I stopped with the hydraulic brakes. With the mechanical brakes, it was all the way up here. You can see the markings. Now, that is almost 6 meters or another 20 feet that I stopped shorter. Before we start installing these brakes, one thing I want to be transparent on that I found out, that the brake levers are reversed on the hydraulic brakes, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. Right now, the front brake is on the right side, over here. The rear brake is over here where the throttle is. So these new hydraulic brakes, this is the front one with the shorter cable. I guess you could switch the cables, but it goes here, like some of my other bikes, like the Yukon. Now the benefit to this is that the front brake is where the throttle is, and now the rear brake, when I replace the hydraulic one, will be opposite the throttle, so you can have your hand right on the brake for emergency stopping purpose. Now comparing these two, the brake pads on the hydraulic are nearly twice as big as the mechanical brakes, so this should decrease the stop in a drastic amount of distance. All right, the first thing we're going to do when we want to install this is de-energize the bike. We're going to remove the battery. So I'm going to go in, unlock it, pull up on the battery, remove the battery, set that aside. It makes the bike easier to work on. I'm going to use a 10mm socket to remove the seat. There's 6 nuts underneath the seat. Now I'm going to remove the handle grips and throttle so I can get the brake cables off. So what I'm going to do is twist the grip like that. That's loose. All right, I got the throttle loose and the brake. I'm going to remove all this cable wrapping and pull the safety motor cutoff switch through the cabling. Alright, got the cabling over there. Okay, I got everything unwrapped, and I'm here in the controller. You can see this is a split wire harness, the purple and black wires. This is where the brake cutoff switch attach. You can see both brake wire cutoff switches have the red and black wire with the SM plugs. So you see 2 of them. It's a splitter here. I'm going to use that tab, disconnect them, and the new one will plug right into this wire harness. So now I can feed these out through the frame and remove the brake levers on the handlebars. Now I'm going to start to remove the throttle side brake lever. So I'm going to remove the throttle. Be careful not to lose this little cap, because this prevents the handle grip from pressing against the throttle and sticking on the throttle. So I'm going to take that. I'm just going to set the cap down, and I'm going to lay the throttle right there. And now this brake lever can be removed from the bike. I'm going to pull the harnesses out. In order to remove the brake cable from the frame, you can do one of two things. You can loosen it on the brake caliper end and pull the cable through the frame, or you can also do it here on the lever end. You just have to line up the slots on this screw like such, and then what you're going to do is slide the cable out of the lever and then open the lever, and you gain access to that. Now everything can slide through the frame. All right, got one brake lever out of the frame. All right, got the cable pulled through the frame. Now I'm going to remove the back caliper. The left-hand grip was hard to get off, but I'm starting to get it off, like such. That's done. I loosened the directional and headlight switch. That's a 3mm hex. This is a 5mm hex to loosen that. So I'm going to take this, set it down here like I did with the throttle, and I'm going to remove that brake lever. All right, so now I got everything removed. All the brakes are off the frame. Get into the install of the new hydraulic brakes. One thing to keep in mind, keep the safety clip in the hydraulic brakes until it's time to install, because if you accidentally hit this lever, you'll close that caliper and then it's really tough to get back open. So leave those plastic safeties in there until the last minute. This is the rear brake. You can see how long the cable is. And then I'm going to fish this caliper through the frame and make it all the way to the rear axle. So I believe what I'm going to do is I'm going to fish it down through here like such. And then remember, it's got to go through the frame. There's a bunch of zip ties that I'm going to use and cable stays. And you can see that it looks like there's a little extra cabling, but I can hide that in the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and install this rear caliper. All right, I'm going to install the rear brake caliper. Let the bracket float on the caliper. We'll tighten those down after we get the bracket installed on the frame. That way it floats and finds the center of the rotor and the caliper. So what we want to do is we're going to use the existing screws, or you could use the new screws that came with the kit. I'm just going to use the existing ones because they're in good shape. Now's your time where you're going to remove that safety clip and you're going to slide the caliper on the rotors. There we go. You can see that it can move up and down. This can move in and out. So what I'm going to do is install these bolts. Now, for some reason, if the float in and out needs to be adjusted or this bracket doesn't have enough float, you could always add a washer on the inside to ensure that bracket is pushed closer to the rotor if needed. Alright, in order to correct the offset, I found some washers. These are 6mm washers. You could also pull them off the old screws and use those too, but it was easier just having these 6mm. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place those between the frame and the caliper, like such. Same thing with this one. Move the caliper back. Put that bolt in there just barely. Put the washer on there. That way it gives me the right amount of offset. Now I'm going to slide the caliper back onto the rotor. And now I'm going to install the screws. Alright, now that's a better float and you can see that it's loose on there. So what I'm going to do is get that centered up. just those little bit of washers gave me a little bit of an offset to get the caliper centered. Now, if you don't have those washers, you can just ride on those pads and the pads will wear in. It's only a very small amount, maybe like not even a millimeter. So what I'm going to do now is tighten down these bolts. These bolts allow the caliper to float. So I'm going to try to get that centered. I'm looking down here like that. Just going to give it a little pressure like that. Very small amount so it stays centered on the rotor. Got that brake caliper installed. Looks good, it's centered. Now if I lift up the wheel and spin it, there's some resistance through the motor, but you can see that it spins freely. And that brake caliper is installed. Now I'm going to route the cables up here. I'm going to use zip ties. And then maybe some of the excess I have, I'm going to hide up underneath the seat. This is the rear brake lever. I'm putting it on the left-hand side. I'm going to then take the headlight directional switch, make sure that's installed properly, and then I'm going to reinstall the grip. Alright, I'm going to slide the brake. This is the front brake lever on. Now I'm going to install the throttle. Just leave that loose. This is the throttle cap so that the grip doesn't pinch. And then I'll reinstall this like such. I'm going to tighten this down, but first I'm going to get all this cabling. I'm going to pull it through the frame, and then I'm going to move over and plug it into the controller. I got both brake cutoff switches routed to the controller box, and now I'm just going to simply plug them in. Doesn't matter which one goes where because it goes to the same cutoff harness. See that? They're both plug and play. What I might do too is any of the excess I might pull tight and wound in this box as there's some extra room. Alright, now we're going to install the front brake caliper. Remember, remove that clip last. What you're going to do is straddle that onto the rotor. I'm going to check this one. This one looks good, doesn't need any spacers, so I'm just going to go ahead and install this one. Alright, check the float, looks good. Alright, I'm going to lift up the front wheel. Rubbing a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust that just a smidge and get it set up. One thing to do, you'll see this cable rubs on the wire. That's why there's this little clip on the frame that holds it away from the tire. I'm going to utilize that, and that install is done. Alright. Okay, before I install all the cable wraps and get the wiring situated, I want to test this before I put everything back together. So I brought the battery out here. Make sure the battery is off. I'm going to take some care and install the battery again. Alright, let's check the motor kill switch. I'm going to depress the brake, hit the throttle. You can see nothing is occurring. That gives me a good sign. I'm also going to do that over here. You can see nothing happens. That's good. That tells me the brake cutoff switch is hooked up properly. Everything is operating. Oh yeah, that's going to be really nice. I think this will be a massive upgrade. Alright, reinstalling the cable wraps. This is kind of tedious, but looks awesome. What I'm doing is, you can see the hydraulic lines I am allowing to escape out of the cable wraps so that they can freely go where they must. All right, before I install the seat, I want to show you what everything looks like. You can see I put the cable wraps on, the brakes are installed. Now you'll see underneath the seat here, I put the wraps back on. I added another section that was a little bit short, but you can see here I had to do a little bit of an S-curve as the rear brake cable was about 125 millimeters or 5 inches too long. So I just simply did a sort of S-curve here, but it fits nicely. You won't see that underneath the seat. And I'm going to install the seat and my little storage bag. Oh, one thing, if you wanted to upgrade this controller, there is a link I'll put in the description below to a 25 amp controller. It would probably get you a little bit more speed, but I will tell you the negative is that you could get about 10% less range. So instead of 27 miles, you'd get down to 23, 24 miles of range, but you would increase the top speed to about 33 miles an hour. All right, let's install the seat. All right, seat's installed. Now I'm gonna put my little storage bag on. It's really easy. This product is also linked in the description below. All right, everything is installed. I'm gonna put the battery back in. I'm gonna go do a brake test. All right, we're gonna do an Ouxi brake test. Here we go with the hydraulics. Okay, with the hydraulic brakes, I got to here. I was stopping before way up here with the mechanical brakes. So let's take a measurement of what that is. That's nearly 20 feet less with the hydraulic brakes. So they definitely work a lot better. So if I go from there, I started braking from the edge of the driveway up here, which is about 23 feet. So 23 feet, and with the mechanical brakes, I was up to 43 feet. That's almost half the distance in braking. I'm really impressed. Those brakes are terrible, and the hydraulic ones with the bigger pads are a much better option. The other benefit to these brakes, no more squeaking. See that? Compared to the mechanical ones, they were squeaky and noisy. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any comments, please leave it in the description below, and please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.